Okay, we're up to Daf Ayin Vav Amid Aleph. We are 7 lines into the page V'yesh Oimrim. What we're trying to clarify is the Shita of Eliezer. Eliezer's Shita is that a Kuti is not allowed to marry a Kutis. So we've had a couple attempts as to try to figure out what's the issue. So this led us to a discussion of what exactly is the problem with a Kuti B'chlal. So we've had two opinions so far. The opinion of Yishmael is that he held that Kutim did not convert properly. They did not convert properly, in which case they're Goyim. And then they marry Jews as Mamzeris and Goyim. Rav Akiva feels no, they're legit Gerim. What was the issue? The issue is they made a drasha. The Kutim had a cheshbon that only a woman who has Erisin needs Yibam, a woman who has Nasuin does not, which created Chayve Lavin. Women who required Yibam were not getting Yibam, so it's a lav. Leisia Eisha Sachutza, Eisha Sa'ach Chutza, Chutza Lishzar. So there was a lav, and Rav Akiva Shita is that a lav makes a mamzer. So now we're still looking for the third opinion. So the third opinion is V'yesh Oimrim, Lefi she'ein bekiyim b'dikdukei mitzvah. This is the Shita of Eliezer. Eliezer's Shita is they don't keep the oral Torah. So because of that, they're not careful with mitzvahs. Now, we'll have to see why does that specifically regarding marriage. We'll analyze that in a second. But the problem is they don't keep Torah mitzvahs properly. Man Yeshavim, who's the author of this? Rav Ada Baravin, Rav Eliezer here. It's Rav Eliezer, the Tanya. Matzahs kuti muteris. The Tana Kama feels that you can eat the matzah of kutim because he feels that they kept dikdukei mitzvahs. Vad miyotzich avas Pesach, he gidem Pesach. Rav Eliezer Oyser, he disagrees. Vishaim bekim dikdukei mitzvah. They don't keep mitzvahs properly. They don't know about the 18 minutes. They're not careful with details of halacha. Rishon Gamliel, he has a middle shita, which is called mitzvah. Sheichz bakutim har medachim v'yaisim Yisrael. Rishon Gamliel says it depends what mitzvah. Some mitzvahs they're super makbid, they're even more makbid than us. Other mitzvahs not. Okay. Point is, they're not. According to Rabbi Eliezer, they're not careful with halacha. So how does that affect an issue for marriage? So ve'elahacha says the Gemara over here. How does that create a problem for marriage? They don't do gittin properly, so they have mamzeris. If you don't know the details of halacha for gittin, then you'll have people that have gittin that should not be having gittin. That creates mamzeris, and that's the issue. Okay, fine. Another issue with kutis is they had mamzer from achoisai and mamzer from eishesach got mixed in. There were kuti families that got involved with the mamzeres from achoisai. Some married their sister, and mamzeres from eishesach. Some married their sister-in-law. So the Gemara just basically, in other words, mamzeres got in. So the question is, why do you have to mention achoisai and eishesach? Just say mamzeres. Mike mashrulon yesh mamzer mechayvi krizos nisni chada. Why do you have to mention mamzer of achoisai and mamzer from eishesach? Well, what's the chiddush of that? The answer is ma'aser shahaya kachaya. No, the answer is it's not looking for a chiddush. It's telling you a ma'aser shahaya. The ma'aser shahaya was that there was a mamzer from achoisai and a mamzer from eishesach that got mixed in. It's a ma'aser shahaya kachaya. Rava Amar, last pshat, Eved v'shivcha nisaver behen. He says there were Eved and shivchas. Now they're both the same. They're both non-Jews. They got mixed in, and because they were goyim, they got mixed into the kutim. That's why we can't marry them anymore. Isura mishamai misham shivcha. Nisni chada. What's the difference between an Eved and a shivcha? They're both the same in halacha. So I have to mention both. It's a ma'aser shahaya. No, the ma'aser is we know of an Eved and a shivcha that got mixed in. Okay, fine. Now this next Mishnah deals with the requirement to investigate, before you get married, to investigate someone's lineage. Now it's a machlokes rishonim. According to Rashi, this seems to be something that you'd have to investigate every marriage to look for mamzeris. Taisvis seems to say that this is, you're not looking for mamzeris, you're looking for chalolim, and it's specifically kohanim who have to do this investigation. Okay. Hanoise isha kehenes. Let's say you're marrying a kehenes. Now, there's going to be a difference between, let's say with Rashi, we're looking for mamzeris. There's going to be a difference between marrying a kehenes and marrying a Yisraelis or a Levia. Why? Kehenes the families of Kehanim were a little more careful, so you would require more investigation by marrying a Bas Yisrael and marrying a Bas Levi than if you marry a Bas Kehenes. So if you marry a Kehenes, you have to look into her family as follows. This is what you have to investigate. Tzarich livdoik achareha arba imos. You have to look into the Kala's 4 of her mothers, meaning 4 female ancestors, Shein Shmaina, and then their mothers. So 8 total. So who do you have to investigate? Ima, your Kala's mother. Ve'em Ima, her mom's mom. Aim Avi Ima, her father's grandmother. Ve'em Ve'ima, and her father's great grandmother. Ve'em Avia Ve'ima, and mother's grandmother on the father's side. Ve'em Avia Ve'ima, and her father's grandmother on the father's side. Okay, so that's four core women and their mothers, so 8 women total. Levia v'Yisraelis ma'asifan echad, and when you're marrying a Levia or a Bas Yisrael, you have to add another 4, go up one more generation because they require more bedika. Okay, now let's say you're Baidik. Let's say you lived right after the Churban. You're Baidik, so you're looking into her grandfather's mother. But you realize that her grandfather actually served in the Beis HaMikdash. He was a kohen who served in the Beis HaMikdash. The halacha is, once you get to a family member who served in the Beis HaMikdash, you no longer have to look above her. Meaning, once the grandfather served in the Beis HaMikdash, you don't have to look into his mother, because they would never have him serve in the Beis HaMikdash. It was a shaila nichus. Once you could trace someone back to serving in the Beis HaMikdash, you no longer have to go above him ancestrally wise. And a Levi, if let's say you're looking into Levium and you find a family member, one of the family members, saying in the played instruments in the Beis Hamikdash, you no longer have to check. Or if you found the family member was a member of the Sanhedrin. Now this is the Sanhedrin of 23 or 71. Those Sanhedrins, they would check to make sure that they were not mamzeris. Or if you found out one family member was served as a public official, Rashi says that means served on a bezdin of 3. Now, the issue we're going to have is the Gemara is going to point out that to be on a bezdin of 3, you could be a mamzer. So we'll have to analyze that. Gabei tzedakah or a gabei tzedakah. Gabei tzedakah is someone who collected tzedakah for the aniyim. They would make the yichus, they would check the yichus. The Gemara is going to say the reason why is because gabei tzedakahs get into so much arguments with people because they're collecting debts, that if the guy was like a mamzer, someone would have yelled at him that you're a mamzer. And the fact that no one's ever said it, that itself is a great proof. Masiyan the kahuna, all these people, you can marry off the daughter to the kahuna. You don't have to check anymore. Rabbi Yossi, he adds, Af misha yachosim aid ba'arve heyishana shel tzipuri. If you find one of the family members was a witness on a document in the bezdin of Yeshana near Tzipuri, you also don't have to investigate anymore because they would not let Eidim go unless they would check their yichus. If you were a soldier in the king's army, you also don't need to investigate because they would check their yichus. Okay, so the Gemara says that they would look into the Kala's family. Why are you looking into the Kala's family, not the Chassan's family? Right? You want to make sure she's not a mamzeres. Maybe he's a mamzer. And more than that, why, even if you're looking into her size, why are you looking into her female side? Why don't you look into the men? The answer is Nashi dichiminsu b'hadi adadi b'arayisu deminsu. When women get into arguments, they usually don't call each other, mamzer. They usually don't call each other. They don't bring up genealogical issues. They bring up personal conduct. They'll say you're a zayna. They don't bring up the family, therefore it's possible that family stuff is hidden. But when it comes to men, Gavri, when men argue with each other, they yell out all the problems of the family. You're a mamzer, you're a cholol, you're an asin, you're an amain. And therefore, if something had been wrong with someone's pedigree, Islay you would know about it. And therefore you don't have to check the men as much. Okay. The question is like this. I understand why you're not checking into the male side of her family, but why is she not looking into his family? She should look into his mother's. Misayel Rav. This proves the Rav. Rav. This is the proof to Rav that now. This is a proof to Rav that Rav said that while a kohen is not allowed to marry a cholol, a mamzer, and a sin, a cholol, all these people, a ger, a geris, a kehenis is allowed to. So since she's allowed to marry a cholol or a convert, they're not going to have to look into to make sure that he's not, that he's not a mamzer. Now, 1 second. Okay, fine. Let's go weiter. Rabbi bar Rava Tani Dalari Mois. He said 4 mothers. Shem Shtei Mesrei. Instead of 4 being 8, you actually have to look into 12 women. Seemingly not like our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said 8. Masisa Tana and a Brisa said Dali Mois Shem Sheish Esrei. You actually have to go 16. You have to go 4 generations back. So the question is, could this work in our Mishnah? B'Yishlem lo Rav bar Rava. Go to the next page. Rav bar Rava, who said that it's 12. How could he work with our Mishnah that said 8? Mukim la b'Levi bas Yisrael. Because if you remember in our Mishnah it said 8 by a bas Kayin, but when you're marrying a bas Levi, a bas Yisrael, you have to go 1 more generation up, so that 8 becomes 12. So that's what Rav bar was talking about. But how do you explain the Bryce that said 16? How is it ever 16? I thought 12 is the max. And the Masisa name of pligi loy my oid achas zug achas. He says, you know what? The Bryce interprets the Mishnah, and the Mishnah says that you have to by a bas Kayin, you have to look up to 8 women back. You have to check into 8 women. And then the Mishnah said, when you're looking into a Levi and a Yisraelis, oid achas, meaning 1 more. So if it's by 4, so 4, 8, now becomes 12. So the Brisa interprets oid achas. The Brisa is not arguing with the Mishnah. The Brisa is interpreting the Mishnah saying like this, my oid achas, oid zug achas. That when you're looking into Levi and Yisraelis, you don't just go back 1, you go back 1 pair, meaning you double it. So instead of 8, it's actually 16. Okay. Rav Yehuda Rav Zudev Rameir. This Mishnah that you have to investigate is the Shita Rameir. The Chum Shita is that everyone is kosher. You don't have to check. Eini, is this true that the Chum hold you don't have to check? I thought our Mishnah is talking about a case that her paternity was brought into question. If the paternity is brought into question, wouldn't everyone agree that you have to look into it? So the answer is Masniha. You're right. If you feel that the Mishnah is talking about someone, Adam questioned the paternity, then of course you have to look into it. The one who said that the Chum say you don't have to look into it is where the paternity is not brought into question. Ikadami, some have a different version. Rav Yehuda Merav Zidibra Meir. This is Shita Meir, but the Chacham say no, all mishpachas becheskas kasher say no in them, and Amrav Chumbar Gemarav im Karlov Ir Tzarich Liv Decharel. The Shita of the Chacham that you don't have to look. That's only when there's no error, but when there's an error, you have to. When there's an error, you have to look into it. In Boitkin min Mizbeach Lamayla, we said that if you could trace back one of the people to the Mizbeach, then you don't have to investigate anymore. My taima, he loved the maskile, because if he was a blemish, they would not let him serve in the Beis Hamikdash. Similarly, the Mishnah says that if a Levi gets traced back to singing in the Beis Hamikdash, you don't have to investigate anymore. My taima, because again, they would not let him serve in the Beis Hamikdash in any form if there was a question of the yichus. And if a member is, if you can trace back one of the members being part of the Sanhedrin, then you don't have to look into it either. My time, what's the reason? The Tanur of Yosef, Kashem Shebezdin Menuka B'Tzedek, just like the Bezdin has to be righteous in integrity, Kach Menukin Mekomum, so too it has to be clean from any blemish, meaning no mamzerus. So to be a member of the Sanhedrin, you had to be genealogically pure. Amra Meimer Micro, what's the source? Because the pasuk says Kuloch Yafar Yasi Mumein Bach. The pasuk says in Shir Hashirim that you have to be Mumein Bach, you have to be beautiful. So Ema Muma Mamish. So you're saying right now that when the pasuk describes, now it refers to the Sanhedrin can't have a mum. It means genealogical blemishes. The Gemara says maybe it actually means a physical mum. Maybe you could be genealogically impure. You could be a mamza, whatever. But what does it mean, Mumein Bach? It means that you can't be missing an arm. The answer is the fact that a Sanhedrin cannot be missing an arm and can't have a mum is from a different source. Amar Bacha Bar Yaakov Amar Kra V'Syatzvu Sham Imach. The pasuk says that Hashem told Moshe to take Sanhedrin members to sit with you. Imach b'doimilch. They have to be like you, just like Moshe didn't have a physical mum. So to the members of Sanhedrin can't have a physical mum. So I already know they can't have a mum. So what does it mean, mum ein bach? It must be genealogical mum they don't have, that there's no mamzerus. So the Gemara says Dilma Mishum Shchina. Maybe no. Maybe you need two psukim, both to tell you that there's no mum, physical mum. Why would I need both? One is Mumein Bach and one is Daimel Lamach, because one is by Moshe Rabbeinu. Maybe the reason why they can't have a mum is because they're actually going to have Hashras Hashchina, but forever afterwards, to be a member of the Sanhedrin, maybe you could have a mum. That's why there's a second pasuk, but we don't have an extra pasuk saying that you can't have a genealogical mum. So the answer is Amar Nachman Amar Krava Hakol Me'elecha V'Nasu Itach B'Doimilach. There's another pasuk that says that they have to be like Moshe. So because the pasuk clearly says they can't have a mum, this mum ein bach must be a genealogical mum you don't have. Okay. Now, then the Mishnah said that if you could trace one of the family members back to having to being a member of any Sanhedrin, even 3, then you could stop checking because they obviously don't have a mum. The Gemara says, "Lamemra deloy mukminim ipsulin." Is it true that we don't send up someone on a member of Sanhedrin, even member of 3 Sanhedrin, that doesn't have a mum? You can't be a mamzer? Wait a minute, or mini. Hakol ksheim laden, dini mamnis. Anyone can be on a bezdin of 3. A mamzer could be on a Sanhedrin. A member of the bezdin of 3, you could be a mamzer. So the question is like this: You're telling me that if I could check, that if we could check and investigate, and one of the members, we could go back that one of the family members served on a bezdin of 3, then it means it's not a mamzer. You could be a mamzer on a bezdin of 3. The answer is Rabbi Yerushalayim. The answer is we're talking about Yerushalayim, meaning you could generally serve on a bezdin of 3 if you're a mamzer, except in Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim they were particular. Therefore, if you could trace it back that he was a member of bezdin in Yerushalayim, then he's then that's enough for him to stop. We said that if you could trace back that he's a Gabei Tzedakah, then you don't have to check anymore because he's clean. My time, what's the reason? Kiva the mitzvah the inchi, because Gabei Tzedakahs fight with people. Because they're collecting pledges. Therefore, if there was something wrong with his genealogy, someone would have yelled it out in the middle of the fight. Okay. So the host of Ravad Barava was a descendant of a convert. The case was that his dad was a convert, his mom was a Jew. And the host was arguing with Rav Bibi the following. Basically, someone had to oversee the town's affairs. So Rav Bibi said he'll do it, but the host wanted to do it, so they're arguing as to who to do it. So as they came to Rav Yosef, they came in front of Yosef. He says, Tanina, we have a tradition. The pasuk says you should appoint from within you for a king. Now, a king cannot be a convert, or even the children of a convert, because it says, that has to be from your brothers. He has to be born a Jew. But we expand that not only could a convert not be a king, we do not appoint him to any position of power. So he said, so basically he was saying, Rav Idi, you're right. You should run the town, be the mayor of the town, because the other person is a convert. So then he says, wait a minute. Amle Ravad Barava spoke up in his host's defense. That's only true when you're a convert. This person was the son of a convert. The son of a convert could be appointed. Afilu imam Yisrael. What if his mom's a Jew, meaning his father's a convert, not him? Amle imam Yisrael karvachacha. Then it's fine. So basically, it turned out both are eligible to be governors or mayors, whatever they were trying to be. So this is how they split it up. He'll be in charge of the spiritual matters of the town. He'll be in charge of the shaykhtim and the mikvah. And the host will be in charge of the civil affairs of the town. So it means that the Gemara says, you see from here that if you host the Talmud Chacham in your house, it should be like Ravad Barava because he defended his host and allowed him to be mayor. Rav Zer Metapler, Rav Zer would, this is according to Rashi, this is talking about descendants of converts. Rav Zer would appoint them to positions of authority, as we just got finished saying. Ravad Barava Metapler, Ravad Barava as well. Barava, B'Eretz Yisrael, Afilu Reish Kura Lo Mikmeh Nayu. They didn't appoint them even to inspect weights and measures. They didn't appoint them because they felt that it's an issue even if you're the child of a convert. Ben Arda, Afilu Reish Gargusa Lo Mikmeh Nayu, and Arda also, they didn't even appoint them to supervise the irrigation. They were very particular not to give a position of power to someone who is a family of converts. Rav Yossi Amar Mi Shahoy. My timer. Why is it that if you were a witness, or Rav Yossi said if you were a witness and a document in the court of Yeshan or near Tzipuri, you don't have to check anymore. Because apparently in that town, in that bezin, they do not allow you to sign contracts to be an aid unless they check your yichus. Chanina ben Antigonus, he said that if you could trace back to being in the king's army, then that means your yichus is clean. Amar Rav Shmuel, b'chayal eshel b's David. It's Dafka talking about the kingdom of Beis David, David's army. David's army specifically, they check the yichus. Rav Yosef, Micro, what's the source? Yichus, they check the yichus to be part of the army. My time, what's the reason? I'm Rabbi the Marav, Kadesh tains chus avis mesiad. So they have chus avis. You want to make sure that the children of Avram Avinu, the Namam Zeris, whatever. So you want to make sure they have a chus avis to protect the army. So now we're basically saying that in the army of David, you had to have good yichus. Is this true? One of the army of David had Selek Amoni. He was Ammon, from Ammon. My love to Asim Ammon. Is he not from Ammon? So you see that he had bad yichus. Loit di Yasim Ammon. No. He had good yichus. He lived in Ammon. He wasn't from Ammon. He was a Jew, but he lived in Ammon. Uriah Hachiti. Uriah from Chiti. That means that he wasn't Jewish. He wasn't from Chiti. My love to Asim Meches. Did he not come from Chiti? Loit di Yasim Meches. No, he was a full-fledged Israeli and Jew. He just lived in Chiti. It was one of the Plishti towns. Okay, Iti Hagiti. What about Iti Hagiti? You'll answer again the same thing. He just lived in Gas, in Giti. V'amar Rav Nachman, Iti Hagiti ba ubitla. Problem is a halacha that a Jew cannot nullify an idol. Right? If let's say you have an idol, it has certain stringencies that come up with an idol. If let's say a guy made an idol, so you're not allowed to benefit from it, you're not allowed to sell it, but then the guy said, I don't believe it has any power, he's mevatel it. That could work. A Jew cannot be mevatel an idol. So, Iti Hagiti was mevatel the idol, which means, in other words, he was a guy. So if he was a guy, he served in the army. Another question. Amr Rav Yehuda Marav, Arba Meis Yeladim Hayla David. David HaMelech had 400 children. Yeladim Hayla, not children. He had 400 young men in the army. B'kulam b'nei Yefas. All of them were children of Yefas. Yefas is when you go to the army, you capture someone at war and have children. So from all the wars that David fought, they had 400 b'nei Yefas. They're not Jewish. I mean, assuming that they were born before the conversion. They were not obviously David's himself, but they were from soldiers. The Kula Mistaf from Kumi Megadlim Blurris, all of them had Goyish haircuts. So they had big hair on top and they cut the hair on the sides. And the Kulam Yoshim Bekruniya Shulzav Vayimahalchim Barashi Agaisis, all of them sat in carriages of gold and read. They went to the front lines. And they're the strong men of David's army. These men were not Jewish, and they served in the army. The answer is the answer is these men who were not Jewish that went into the army, they did not go to fight. They went to intimidate. Because imagine you're going into a war, and all of a sudden you see the children of captives are coming forward. That means that the Jews have won many, many wars before, so it was an intimidation factor. They didn't actually fight. To fight in the army, you had to be Jewish. I will stop here.